Well, hello again and welcome to another race recap. This is the Columbus Criterium Series in Hilliard, Ohio, the Category C race, which is a Cat 4 or 5, officially designated as beginners. This is taking place at the Franklin County Fairgrounds just outside of Columbus, week 2 in a 6-week training series that you can join anytime. Links to the Strava and the Bike Reg if you're catching this in time, if you want to join us on one of these other weeks throughout the spring. That's in the description alongside a link to this full race footage. Without commentary, we're going to be fast forwarding a bit, I imagine, this week, so the full raw footage is in the description too. Plus last week's race recap, where it was a lot sunnier. I'll overlay it here as we got a little bit of negative space in this corner to do so. The weather was not participating with us this time. 20 laps in the rain today, just 4-mile-an-hour winds to the south. And less tactics involved as everybody takes the corners a little more gingerly here. Not too complicated with just a handful of guys out there. But while we have a moment here, I do want to, just a minute in, ask you the most important question that I walk away from this with. I didn't learn as many lessons as I walked away with questions, and I'd love to get your input. And that's, in a race like this, 6 individual guys, no teammates, and no breakaway, importantly. Well, I guess no breakaway that we can catch. Where do you draw the line between racing smart and racing rude? I don't know if that's a thing, but I left this race feeling like I was a little bit rude. And if I have space in this corner here, I'll show you this clip from last week, where tactics were more of an issue at this moment. We probably could have stood a chance at bridging if we worked together, but I didn't see, that's Joel up there, I didn't see his elbow until it was too late. So I apologized in the video. He hit me up on Strava, and later in real life in this race too. He's I think right behind me in this video right now. He said like, hey, no big deal, that's bike racing, which is very kind, but I want to know where you stand on sitting in a wheel for the entire time and skipping every pull in the name of strategy for yourself. Is that like a selfish thing to do? Do you look down on it when others do it in a race? On like some personal level, because I don't want people to think I'm a jackass, but I also don't want to get burned like I did last week, and like I will be burned again in this video. Later on, we'll see Joel takes the same pull, and he doesn't flick his elbow this time. He is very clear about what he wants me to do, as you can see in the screenshot. We'll see it in a minute. But it was more of a choice to skip the pull that time around, so I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, what's your opinion on skipping pulls in a crit? Because it's something that not everybody in the field can do. Anyway, we're coming up on the first exciting thing that happens in the race, which is a very brief attack from this rider on the left. He told me his name in the warm-up lap, and I was so nervous that I forgot it right away. Sorry to the racer in first right now. But he tells me his story is pretty much exactly like mine, where he, did a bunch of races in high school, it was a major hobby, and then took almost exactly 10 years off, and that's where I find myself here too. So we catch up to him within the lap. You see him shake his head there like, oh, I don't know what, just shaking out the legs sort of thing. And we are safe for the moment, but another attack is coming here in pretty much the exact same place into what minimal wind there was. I can't remember if I already mentioned this time around, but that 4 miles an hour to the south was the average. I barely felt it at all. A lot of that had to do with sucking a wheel the whole time. But you see John here in front of us with his head over to the right. Somebody's calling out the attack there. And I thought this was interesting. John is a strong guy in the warm-up laps. I don't know much about him. I should say that straight up. But in the warm-up lap, somebody was like, oh, yeah, that's Chris. He's going to kick our ass. And that's John. He's also going to kick our ass. So I expected John to just stand up and close the gap like a Greek god. But he smartly, I guess, knew that I was going to do the work to close that gap. As I should have, after stealing his wheel the whole time. Anyway, safe for the moment. So I'm going to fast forward here. I mentioned that a lot of it is just me sitting on a wheel, not a lot of exciting stuff happening. Again, if you want the full footage, it's in the description. We do a little shifting around here, but nothing too crazy happening. Just third to second. Joel hangs on my wheel, and I think we got the junior on my wheel as well. I think his name is Kale. That's also back there with us. I do want to bring it back to real time to show you these head turns. No offense to Chris. We met after the race, and he was very pleasant, and I'm looking forward to racing with him again. But just so you get an idea of what's going through my head, as he just turns his head around to get some situational awareness. He just wants to know, rightfully so, wise move to just know who's behind you and what's going on in the race. And especially in a situation where you can't really hear that well with all the rain. But I'm seeing, every time he turns around, I'm taking it personally for some reason. Not in a offensive way, but in a way that says like, oh man, he thinks I'm a jackass for not like swinging around and pulling. And I don't know, am I way off there? It feels like I should be way off. I am admittedly having a ton of fun right now. It didn't sour my experience at all, but it did make me question in the back of my mind if what I was doing was sound in terms of etiquette. You saw a photographer there on the left. That was Jess. As we fast forward here, there's going to be several laps of me just sitting on Chris's wheel, as we talked about earlier in the video. But I do, while we have a moment, want to give shouts out to Jess Hess for taking photos. I've really enjoyed the organization of this event, and I think Jess is working with the organizers, or one of the organizers herself. She did race last week in the same category, and should be in the same video as well. We didn't meet in person, but I did say thank you on Instagram for taking photos. It felt very nice to have some photos of me on a bike. I can't promise that she's going to be doing that every week, but I've really enjoyed the Columbus Criterium Series so far, and I encourage you to, if you're catching this in time, May 2022, to latch on before it becomes a more significant event. I think that's what they're using the funds for, is to bring a big Criterium Series event to Columbus. So I'm going to bring us back to real time here, because for all of my worrying, I guess I forgot that there are, kind of defensive actions that you can do. Like, you don't have to pull the whole time. Just because you're in front doesn't mean you can't actively do something to adjust the tempo of the race. So he pulls off to the right. We slow down by a couple of miles an hour, and that's when I realize, oh no, I'm on the front of the pack. I've got to do something about this. But also, it crosses my mind that last week I sat on the front and I was like, all right, let's put in a good faith effort. I got up to like 200 beats per minute, and then, which is admittedly insanely high. For me, just very high. And I wound up getting burned because of it. That's when the attack went. I think I slowed down on the front, and somebody was like, okay, it's time to take advantage of that. And took a break, and a bunch of people with them. So I didn't want that to happen this time. You see my heart rate's hovering. It might seem egregiously high to you, but I'm looking down at like 185, 186, and I'm thinking, okay, this is manageable. I can stay in this zone, and if something happens, I think I have the guts to attack back and latch on. Spoiler alert, that doesn't happen. As we fast forward here just a touch, you know that thing that I was afraid of happening? Well, it happens here. There goes Chris, and there goes the junior, and here I'm like, oh no, I did it again. I was in front, and I slowed down, and they went, and 180 turns into 191, turns into 200 beats per minute really quickly, and I watch them ride into the distance, and I say, well, shoot. I did it again, despite feeling bad about not doing the work. I found myself doing the work and then getting punished for it. Now, again, I want to circle back. I don't want to make an excuse there that my one lap on the front is what made me not be able to respond to that attack. Even if I was well rested, sitting at like 160, 165 beats per minute, I probably still wouldn't have been able to respond. But it certainly didn't make it feel good as I sat here in this position. And I'm sitting here, 195 beats per minute, and thinking, what can I do, just like last week, to make this better? Oh, cool, I have this miracle hack of taking the inside line, and I actually skipped a couple cones here. I don't know if that's cool to do. Let me know your thoughts on that. But as for now, I look up, I see that despite my heart pounding and my gut feeling pretty bad, I catch up to Kale, the junior rider, and I want to do the work. This is where the tactics come in. I want to help out. But I say this here, which was the truth. I didn't have much. I wanted him to know that. Less in terms of like he could attack me, and more in terms of like I don't want to make any promises about being able to bridge this gap. In front of us are two lapped riders. So we've got a ways to go already. And this is where Kale, the junior rider, says one of the coolest things that's ever been said to me. And I really wish you could hear it, but we go over this bump. And I respond, yeah. He looks over to me all cool, calm, and collected and says, hop on. That's so cool. It was like an action hero line. Just when I needed it, here he comes. Hop, like, don't worry, I got this. And he did. We'll only fast forward a little bit until we get around these two guys and form our next group. But it definitely helped me get my insane heart rate down, and I'm very grateful for his wheel there. As we come back to real time here, I thought this was a cool move. As here goes Joel's attack. And I thought it was such a cool move because I said out loud to Kale there, I said, oh, he's ours, because I we had just passed those 2 lap riders, and I thought it was one of them jumping back in with our group, which is encouraged in a training crit. And then I realized, wait a minute, Joel's been back there the whole time. I totally didn't realize it. And as we fast forward, I do want to make it abundantly clear, I'm not accusing him of doing anything sneaky. I don't think he was trying to use them as camouflage, but even if he was, I would have thought it was a cool move. Anyway, coming up, we sit on his wheel for a whole other lap, and I don't know if this is a callback. I know he saw the last video where I joked about not seeing his elbow, because I didn't. I just got tunnel vision, but he makes it a lot more pronounced. And it becomes more of a strategic decision. So I look behind me, I see Kale and the 2 lapped guys, and I say this. The GoPro doesn't pick it up, but he says there's somebody bridging, and I try to tell him that those 2 guys that might be bridging, I think that's the lapped guys that you're seeing, only having seen them for a couple of seconds there. So I essentially was just trying to get the point across that, like, I think it's just going to be the 3 of us sprinting for the podium at the end. I don't think there's any risk of being caught by the other guys and Chris is completely out of sight in first place. I don't think there's any way that within 2.5 laps we can catch up to him. In fact, at the end of the race, Chris came up to me and I asked him how many laps he was in front of us, and he said half a lap. And up here on the right in the umbrella, I was talking to my girlfriend, and she was like, no, he was being kind. He was being humble about it. He was actually more like 3/4 of a lap, maybe a full lap almost in front of us. And we just didn't notice there at the end. Maybe he was the one that Joel saw bridging. Maybe he was that far ahead. And he saw Chris while I saw the 2 lapped riders. I'm just now considering that as an option. I don't know if it's a legitimate option. But anyway, here we are, lap 19, fast forwarding once again, because this is pretty much the end of the race. With exception to this extremely cool thumbs up. Oh, very nice. There's the photo. Shouts out once again to Jess for posting some photos. And you know, I was going to fast forward, but we can make it through this last lap, I think. What was going through my head, the only thing really, was the shot at the podium. We're still sitting on, we got Kale on our wheel right here, so there's a chance that we come in 4th. Meow. There's Flipper making her 2nd guest appearance. Hey, buddy. But despite it all, I was pretty happy with my positioning here. I thought that if I were going to go for a sprint finish at all, it would be in this corner, and that's where I wound up going. I thought about that and just sent as much as I could. I missed a cone there. I hope that's not terribly uncouth. And I hope the rest of my line here is also okay. I'd be very interested to see it from a rider behind me's perspective. But I mentioned my girlfriend's right there on the right. I wanted to put on a show and sprinted in for 2nd. And I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. To go from my first crit finishing in a dropped position, bottom 50%, to almost exactly 50% at last week's crit, to admittedly a small field. But to come in 2nd, I mean, with such a strong rider on the front, felt pretty good. This is where I catch up with Joel, and I apologize the same way I did last week in the video.
Sorry to make the call again.
And you can't tell what he says there, but he was, again, very gracious about it, and even in the Strava comments after. Despite how bad I feel about kind of just not doing any work at all, and claiming to have been moderately successful. I don't know. I want to know where you stack up on how much effort an individual should put in a bike race under these specific circumstances too, where tactics aren't necessarily a huge factor. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments or in real life if you're watching this in May 2022. Hopefully I see you out there at one of the next weeks. I think I'm going to try to go to all of them. And best of luck out there. Otherwise, thanks for watching.